We're really excited to sort of announce that our audit has concluded. One thing that we weren't expecting at the time that we made that sort of commitment was the fact that we do need to actually also look at auditing the fetch contracts. But I don't think this market's exactly a booming market. And I guess you'd only have to look at things like trading volumes for things like Pulse, for example. Having said that, though, there is a broader community here. And so what we're looking to build at the moment is a nice UI to help people to, for example, stake the tokens that they may actually receive in the future. Hey guys, it's Crypto Crazy here. Thanks for joining me. Wanted to give you a bit of an update in terms of where things are at from a development point of view. We're really excited to sort of announce that our audit has concluded. So we're very, very happy with the outcome of the audit. So Halborn and their team have been fantastic, and we've been working with them closely on just making sure that there's no issues with the code. And apart from a few sort of notifications or comments around things we might want to consider, there was nothing detrimental. We're really happy with the outcome of the audit. And on that basis, we're pleased to say that, look, Liquid Loans now, contracts have been audited. We're really happy with that. We will be sharing the report with the community so that you guys can have a look and read through the notes that are made by Halborn. But we're very happy with that. So, guys, one thing that you probably are aware of is that when we first looked at launching Liquid Loans, we obviously had a window that we felt, look, we didn't really want to be launching within the first couple of months of PulseChain launching, to allow it to sort of stabilize after launch, and any of the issues that may surface would hopefully be addressed. Obviously, we've had a couple of issues with PulseX. They've been largely resolved. It has obviously meant that, you know, things have had to change on the dev side, that end, but certainly not from our point of view. So from that perspective, we're very happy with the outcome. That, you know, predominantly we now have the 2-month window is nearing conclusion. One thing that we weren't expecting at the time that we made that sort of commitment was the fact that we do need to actually also look at auditing the fetch contracts. Now that's happening as we speak. So the reality is that fetch is being audited now. We anticipate that the contracts will come through with a clean bill of health. We're sort of expecting that could take another couple of weeks before that gets concluded. Then soon after that, we're really then in a position to launch both fetch and Liquid Loans. Now, I think I may have mentioned this before. One of the things that we have to launch first is PulseChain Safe. So we've obviously renamed that to PulseChain Safe. That's currently in testnet. There haven't been any issues. Gnosis itself is challenging to actually fork, but we've been fortunate enough that teams actually resolved some of the issues that we've encountered, and thankfully we're now in a position to be able to roll that out onto mainnet. So that's the first thing that we'll end up doing. Soon after that, once we've concluded the audit, and assuming everything goes to plan with fetch, we'll then be launching fetch. It obviously has to be operational before we can actually launch Liquid Loans. We obviously have to allow some time for testing of both fetch and Gnosis. That's occurred on testnet. Once we've launched on mainnet, we then need to obviously make sure that the feeds are coming in as we'd expect, that people are actually able to report price feeds, and obviously sourcing that information from various locations, whether it's from PulseX or other sources. That has to be tested as well. And so once we're comfortable with that, then we'll be looking to launch Liquid Loans. Now, realistically, that's not likely to happen within the next couple of weeks. I dare say that more than likely it's going to be about a month before we release Liquid Loans. And I know that that may be somewhat disappointing for the community, but I guess at the time that we were looking at Liquid Loans, we weren't expecting to have to develop so much additional infrastructure that really currently didn't exist, or certainly didn't exist on PulseChain. And we're having to launch things like fetch and also Gnosis Safe. So that has obviously delayed us a little bit. But again, I guess the upside of all of this is that the markets at the moment aren't where we'd like them to be. You know, the reality is that, you know, there's still a significant, we believe that there's another potential downturn in the market. Time will tell if that comes through or not. But I don't think this market's exactly a booming market. And I guess you'd only have to look at things like trading volumes for things like Pulse, for example. So the amount of volume that's being traded at the moment is probably not where we'd all like it to be. And as a consequence of that, delaying the deployment is probably not such a bad thing. And, our expectation is that, things will start to turn around. Typically what we tend to see, or this is just a broader market perspective, months of September and October tend to be fairly bearish months. They tend not to be bullish months from a general trading perspective. So we'd anticipate that the markets are going to be a bit slow for the next few months. The hope then is that, come sort of October, November, we're starting to see a bit of an upswing, and we'll start to see some movement in the markets. Again, there's a number of things that could happen. There's still a fair amount of uncertainty out in the market. So from my personal perspective, I don't think this is a troubling sign that if things aren't sort of moving, it just means that you're just having to delay your gratification a little bit longer. So just bear that in mind. And I know that a lot of people are very eager to actually see liquid loans on mainnet. We are too, but obviously we'll never launch a product that isn't ready. And as a consequence of needing to do the audit for Fetch, making sure that Gnosis is running, all of those precursor things are really quite crucial for us in deploying. The other thing that we are sort of developing, and for those that are familiar with Tellor, it is very much a command line driven type tool. And so you have to have some experience with command line to actually use or spin up a reporter, for example. Gamma's been doing a fabulous job for us to sort of educate the community on how to do all of that. There's plenty of material out there to help people to set up reporters. But we do know that it's a very technical piece, and it also requires a little bit of experience with infrastructure to make that happen. But we are anticipating that there will be a number of reporters spinning that up. Having said that, though, there is a broader community here. And so what we're looking to build at the moment is a nice UI to help people to, for example, stake the tokens that they may actually receive in the future. And the reason for that is the way that the incentives work within Fetch, just to give you a bit of a sense of how it works, is that there's an allocation or a time-based incentive that's provided to anyone that is staking their tokens. Now, just because you don't have a reporter spun up doesn't mean that you can't stake your Fetch tokens. And if you do that, then you're entitled to receive time-based rewards, very much like what you'd expect to see with HEX. The inflation rate's a little bit higher. I think it's about 5%, but inevitably what happens is that those tokens are made available. The larger proportion are made available to the reporters, but also there's a fair amount that is provided to people that are actually staking. One of the conditions with Fetch that you'll come to learn about is if you are, whether you're reporting or whether you're just staking, we expect everyone to actually vote on decisions that may need to be required around prices that are fed through to the Oracle itself. And what I mean by that is if there is a dispute, for example, and someone disputes the price, then there is a voting round that has to occur. Now, if you're not participating in voting, then potentially you're putting your incentives at risk. So we do expect people to be voting, and whether you're a reporter or whether you're just staking, there will be a governance sort of arrangement to help you to vote and make decisions around prices that may come through. All I'm trying to allude to is that we're actually building something that's in addition to what currently exists with Tellor. We've been working really closely with those guys. I think Nick Fett and the team have been fantastic. And we've had this conversation that, hey, we'd really like to do something a little bit broader for our broader community to help them really come to terms with what Fetch is all about. And obviously, if you are receiving or if you are entitled to any tokens in the future, there's no guarantees of anything. But if something does happen in that way, you may decide to actually stake those tokens and be beneficiaries of the incentives that will be received. So all in all, we're really happy with our progress, really happy that the audit report is pretty much concluded now. We will be sharing that in due course. Expect to see Gnosis Safe launch first. My expectation is that that's going to launch next week. After that, we will be then looking to launch Fetch. But before we can do that, we actually have to have the audit concluded, and that's at least 2 or 3 weeks away. It will commence, but it does take a little while to get the audit concluded. Again, we're not expecting any major issues with the audit, but it's a process we have to go through. And then once that's occurred, then we're in a position to say, okay, we're close now. We're close to launching liquid loans. So whilst it's not quite the 60 days, there's obviously valid reasons for us delaying and making sure that we get everything right. I don't think anyone would be happy with us releasing something that wasn't right. And we also know what can happen if you rush to launch something. Things get missed. I mean, development is hard, but we certainly will be focusing our energy to make sure that the community has access to liquid loans. And certainly our expectation is that we're getting very, very close now. So guys, thanks very much. Please be patient. The number of times that I think the community admins are actually having to respond to when launch can get a little bit tiresome. Particularly given that we've waited this long, it's got to be right. So just be patient with us and the team, and good things will come to us in the future. Thanks very much for your time. See you guys.